When I think back, I can't remember. Was my chest aching? Or was I feeling the weight of taking care of my father? My father moved in with us after his dementia made it unsafe for him to be alone. Taking care of him took a toll. My energy drained and sorrow washed over me. My husband said that watching my dad go away, as I called it, was like watching a popsicle melt. Dad and I didn't have conversations. We watched things and commented on what was happening. We watched the black cat in the backyard, and we watched the birds on the chimneys and fire escapes. We watched the jets soaring in the sky. We watched basketball, and he would call the fouls even before the referees did. A second later, he could not recall the play. When he saw an amazing player coming down the court, he'd say,
"Look at this."
And then his mind moved on. He could never tell you who was playing or how his team, the Yukon Huskies, was doing. If you asked, he would get angry and say he didn't know. You could change the subject. He would listen but not respond. Instead, he would point to the bird again or the geraniums.
Beautiful flowers, Kim. Beautiful flowers.
We listened to lots of Frank Sinatra.
That guy still got it.
I stopped telling him it was a recording. After being diagnosed with breast cancer, I wondered if my broken heart had somehow broken my breast. Did heartache produce cancer cells? I went over and over the checklist of breast cancer risks that I had memorized over the years. I thought of my nightly cocktail hour with my father. He'd have an amaretto and I'd have a scotch. It made me feel like we were living the good life, like characters in an old Sinatra tune. Alzheimer's patients wander. I think they're hopeful they'll find home and their old life. When I handed my father his amaretto every night, he would smile from deep inside. Alzheimer's patients also have a desire to end the disturbing confusion they feel, especially at the end of the day when the light starts to fade. That's when my father would get angry and pick a fight with whoever was there. In the Alzheimer world, they call this sundowning. Having a cocktail seemed like the thing to do to ease through this crossover time. It didn't work. When the sipping was over, the sundowning would remain. And with my dad, sundown could last all night. And I wonder, did these nightly cocktail hours bring on the cancer? I had my son when I was 27, and I breastfed him for a year. I never smoked. The women in my family didn't have breast cancer. And after I had my son, I jogged miles a day for years. And my jogging was later replaced by big swims in a lap pool. My diet was an ever-present concern, with high and low times of green and dark vegetables and days of salads. And, well, I probably should have completely stopped hamburgers, but who really can? I had my mammograms when I was supposed to. Given my father's dementia, I figured Alzheimer's was the disease I had to worry about. Breast cancer? No way I'd give myself that. But after being with my father all those nights, I came to realize something. He didn't give himself Alzheimer's disease, and I didn't give myself breast cancer. I also realized that I could fight through this breast cancer challenge. After all, I had met the challenge of dealing with Alzheimer's disease. Until these two diseases collided, I could never ask for help. I was the caregiver for everyone. My husband insisted that I increase the hours of my father's professional caregivers, and I soon started a breast cancer support group. Well, I made resolutions to eat better sometimes, to try to sleep better. That didn't work. and exercise more. My father died in our house. My husband and I spoke with him that morning. His beloved caregiver was by his side when he passed, and I was there moments later. The loving caregivers that my father's illness brought into his life gave me a gift. I watched them deal with his disease one challenge at a time. I admired their quiet resolve. They put one foot in front of the other and took care of the work at hand. They preserved my father's dignity until the end. Their strength came from a deep spiritual place. Now that my father has died, can I be my next mission? I think I can, if I approach it the same way I did with my father, moment by moment. I have that same kind of strength that his caregivers had. I can put one foot in front of the other and keep fighting with a song in my heart, and of course, in my breast. Most likely, it'll be a Sinatra tune.